So here we are, back with a second photo review, discussion, showcase. I don't know what to call it. A little late, but yeah, busy week. There's not too much here, so of course come back late with not much. But anyways, I'm still pretty happy with the stuff I was able to get, and I feel like they all fit nicely together. I don't know, I feel like they all have a nice grouping together, and they all flow with each other. So I realized that last time that my positioning was a little weird, so I'm gonna slide over here so that way everything can just show up here. Alright, so first of all, I do have this one here. If I remember correctly, it was pouring rain for I think it was the day before and then the morning of this day. And then I did all of these photos on the same day because it was just a good shoot day because of all of how it was nice and wet. And which is just like, it gives a new texture, it gives a new, new texture, it gives new colors, it kind of washes the dirt off, and you can end up with some stuff that I end up really liking. But this one here, I think it was the first thing I shot on that shoot, or no, I think it was the second, but it was the first thing I actually liked, and it was basically, drain pipe was clearing, and it was dumping a ton of water. I had to shoot it a couple times, because I couldn't quite get what I wanted, but I ended up with this, and I think I had basically opened it up to like 1.8 or something, and so it was like super soft because I was so close. Where's my camera? I basically been using the Canon 50mm 1.8, and which opens up very fast, or gets very fast, or opens up a lot, whatever terminology you want to use. And if I remember correctly, it has a focus distance, a minimum focus distance of like 12 inches or 12 inches or so. And so, but obviously when you get that close with an aperture that wide, the depth of field is tiny. Depth of field is tiny, so you end up with a very soft image, and I quite liked it when I brought it back. I was quite happy with how it looked, and how there was just this tiny point of focus, and everything else was super soft. But anyways, next we have this one, which is it was a bit of a quick shot, I think near the drain pipe, but I kind of just looked over and I was like, the sky was really pretty, like a pretty stormy sky, and it had all of the buildings and that I felt like they all kind of led into each other, and it kind of gave this kind of chaotic feel. And then with the power lines over the top of it, it was just even more of that, where there was like all of these lines that kind of led into each other and led everywhere, like led your eye all across the page, but there wasn't necessarily a spot to like rest, I guess. But yeah, I was honestly quite happy with it. I don't think it's my favorite of the bunch, but I think it's the one that grows on me the more that I look at it, though I liked it from the first time that I had shot it. This one I was quite pleased with again. Here it is. I was walking in the same area. This was a really short walk, but when I was sat there, I was like, I saw the sign, and then I saw just how dark it was, and I was like, okay, I have this bright white sign, and then this dark, moody sky, and I feel like there's something, or the dark, moody atmosphere, and I feel like there's something here that I could do. So I walked up to it. I made sure to underexpose it by a little bit, and just so it kept that kind of darkness, and I didn't need to worry about the sign because it was a bright white light, so it's like no matter how far I stopped it down, the focal point of the image, or target of the image, whatever the term you want to use, was always going to be like there, and I didn't have to worry about that not showing up. And then I think, if I remember correctly, when I brought it into Photoshop or Lightroom, overall it's what I shot. I just made sure to make the background a little bit softer, because I liked how when that background was nice and soft, and then the light sign was like, the texture was like there, and like it really stood out. I thought it helped it stand out against the already soft background. But yeah, I didn't experiment too much with new techniques or anything during this time, but overall this was just kind of a style that I just enjoy shooting, and when I go out it's just like a style that I always have a lot of fun with. So where it's like I don't really have any extra equipment, I have my camera, I have this 50mm lens, and then I have to just go and find stuff. It's like more of a scavenger hunt. Not quite, but more that kind of style of shooting, which I always have a lot of fun with, because you're trying to make something of what's there. I had this manhole cover here that, again, because it had just rained and it was so wet and there's all this puddling, because if I remember correctly, I think my area had gotten 10 inches of rain or so. So it was tons of rain. And so there's a lot of puddling, and there's a lot of, and it kind of washed all the dirt off this manhole cover, or off of everything in general, but this manhole cover specifically, when I'd seen it, because the way that the light was coming in, I don't remember what time it was at, but the way that the light was coming in, I was like, okay, if I get down to a certain angle, it makes it really reflective, it makes it super shiny, it gives it just like, it makes that texture pop, and then it gives you the reflections off the water versus the reflections off the metal versus the asphalt. There's just like all these different textures that I just thought helped pop. And then the manhole cover was just super pretty, or sewer system cover. I'm gonna use manhole cover because it's what makes the most sense to me. But yeah, when I walked by it, I was like having to check for cars to make sure that the thing was like gonna come through, because I was like kind of having to get into the street to get this close, because obviously didn't have zoom, so I just had to get close to it to make sure that I was getting what I wanted out of it. And lastly, I think this is the last thing that I'd shot that day. It was just like a little parking sign, or parking spot numbers. But again, with just the coloring and the texture off of the wall, because it had rained, and then you had the bright white from the parking lot sign. I just thought it had a nice contrast, and then there's the lines that lead you straight into like the sign, so it's like you can sit there, but you can also go over, and it's a kind of shot that I like the atmosphere of, I guess. But I think with a lot of these images, where it's like if I had just shot that in a day, I might not have been the happiest with them, quote unquote, but I was very happy with everything together, and the way that they interacted with each other I was very, very pleased with. So I put them all together here. It felt like a very consistent tone, and it was just shots that I was very, very happy with how they interacted and played with each other, and it felt like it set a mood and then carried through all the way. But that was this quick one. I have a better plan for the next one, but this was just a nice little, I didn't make a ton of shooting time, but I still was quite happy with what I was able to shoot, and quite happy with what I'd gotten. So I'm gonna just throw it out and see if anybody would care to look at it, and see if anyone happens to see this, what they think. But yeah, that's all I really have. My next one should be a little more interesting. It'll be a little more experimental, but yeah, that's all I have for this one. See you around.